On September 7th, 2024, the YouTube channel Action Adventure Twins released a video documenting their exploration of a newly discovered enigmatic cave located on private property. This channel is well known for a previous incident where the two brothers involved, Edward and James, experienced a near-fatal separation within Mackay Cave. Having learned from that harrowing experience, they approached this new exploration with significantly more caution. However, the perilous nature of the cave's entrance meant that even the most meticulous preparations might not have been sufficient. The video begins with the brothers being dropped off partway up a hill. Their guide informed them that the cave's depths were unknown, mentioning only that a weighted rope extended 200 feet before reaching the bottom. Edward and James used a stick to test the depth, confirming the substantial drop.
All right, so the guy dropped us off halfway up the hill, and he doesn't know anybody who's been down this thing, but we are at the cave. He says he threw a rope down it with a rock and it was 200 feet deep before it stopped. So we got this stick here. We're gonna see if our rope reaches. It's still, oh, you were right, it kept going.
This initial challenge would be enough to instill fear in many. One viewer commented that the channel had given them a new fear of hiking, highlighting the potential danger of unseen holes in the forest floor. The viewer expressed a constant worry about the possibility of falling into such voids. Despite these inherent risks, Edward and James were undeterred. They secured their rope to a nearby tree and began their descent into the steep, dark opening. What awaited them below was a sight of remarkable beauty. A vast cavern, unexpectedly revealed from such a small opening.
Oh, wow. Yeah. This is a big one, man.
One of the brothers exclaimed, clearly impressed by the scale of the subterranean space. However, their awe quickly turned to grim discovery. Just moments into their exploration, they encountered what appeared to be human remains, scattered across the cavern floor.
That's comforting. Human bones, huh? Dude, look behind you. There's like a little shrine of them. There's like, oh, that's a cranium.
Dude, is that a human?
Nah, I don't know. It's awfully round.
Yeah, that looks human, man.
That doesn't necessarily make, I don't know. I'm not a bone expert.
The brothers continued their exploration, venturing deeper into the expanding cave. They also found old caving equipment, including ropes and harnesses, already anchored to the cave walls. This detail intensified the mystery surrounding the bones. If, as they suspected, the remains were human, they might belong to a previous explorer who had suffered a fatal accident. The bones found near the entrance likely belonged to individuals who had accidentally fallen into the hidden opening. However, the remains located further inside the cave were too distant from the entrance to support this explanation. Another theory arose. The bones could belong to a victim of foul play. A possibility existed that a killer had either murdered someone within the cave or had thrown a body into the opening and later dragged it deeper into the cavern. Some viewers, however, were skeptical. They accused Edward and James of fabricating the discovery to create a viral video. Their handling of the remains was perceived by some as being too casual. While it's true that some YouTubers have been known to stage such finds, this particular discovery was later confirmed to be genuine. Several experts commented on the video, verifying the human nature of the remains. One commenter, identifying themselves as a paramedic from Canada, stated, "My girlfriend and I are watching from Canada. We're both paramedics. Definitely a human femur and a human cranium." This confirmation, however, led to a new, significant question. When did this person die? If the remains belonged to someone who had disappeared within the last few decades, the discovery could potentially help solve a missing person case. The Action Adventure Twins make report to police for any information. "We ended up contacting the authorities about the bones," one of the brothers reported. They determined them to be human, and apparently those of a Native American who either slipped and fell into the pit cave or was thrown in there after death. and they are approximately 2,000 years old. While this revelation ruled out any recent disappearances, it did not diminish the tragic nature of the discovery. The thought of someone being trapped in that cave, alone and without hope of escape, 2,000 years ago, is a somber one. The individual likely fell, survived the initial impact, and then faced the agonizing ordeal of starvation while desperately seeking a way out. The ancient nature of the remains adds a layer of historical significance to the location, transforming the cave into an unexpected archaeological site. The discovery also highlights the enduring power of nature, both in its breathtaking beauty and its capacity for unforgiving isolation. The brothers' initial exploration, driven by curiosity and a sense of adventure, ultimately led to a poignant encounter with the past, prompting reflection on the passage of time and the fragility of human existence. The cave, once a mystery, now holds a story of ancient tragedy, forever linking the present-day explorers to a long-lost soul. The investigation into the remains may also provide valuable insights into the lives and practices of the people who lived in the region 2 millennia ago. Further scientific analysis, such as DNA testing or isotopic analysis, could reveal details about the individual's diet, health, and origins, shedding light on the broader history of the area. The discovery serves as a reminder that even in the most remote and unexplored places, there are often hidden narratives waiting to be uncovered. A disturbing discovery was shared by Reddit user Superheatran2 on the RBI2 subreddit on December 10, 2024. The user's post read as follows: "Terrifying film found at a thrift store. Found this film photo at my thrift store inside an old Kodak carousel box." In addition to the text, the Reddit user shared a picture of the unsettling film strip. Due to its graphic nature, I will blur the image, but it clearly showed an undressed human form lying on the floor, wedged between a bed and a wall. The scene was gruesome, with significant amounts of blood on the floor and splattered across the bed and walls, indicative of a brutal and recent act. The image's disturbing authenticity made it seem far too real to be a simple horror art piece. Roughly half an hour later, the OP returned with an update describing what they did after finding the film, which only served to make the discovery seem even more genuine. The update read, "Hello everyone. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I'm leaving an update as a comment. Here's what I did. When I saw the photo, I was curious and pointed into a contrast area to look at it, and my body jolted because I was shocked I didn't buy the Kodak carousel, and just took the photo, and went outside. I went to another store next door and called the non-emergency line, describing what I saw, and that I felt like it was a genuine photo. They told me they're sending an officer when available. She said she didn't have an ETA. The dispatch person told me if I can wait at the thrift store, and I said yes, I'm waiting in my car as of now." Around an hour later, a second update from the OP appeared, focusing on their contact with the police and stating, "The officer arrived a bit after I posted the update. Him and I looked at the photo, and basically he was just looking thoroughly, and asked me where I found it, and I just described where I found it. Then him and I walked to the thrift store and showed him the exact box I found it in. He sent a photo of the film to a co-worker and spoke to him on it. He then took down my information and told me that he's going to take it to the people who can properly process the image to investigate it. I basically told him how I just thought the carousel was cool. So I opened it to see the condition, and I saw the photo and thought someone left a family photo. So I checked, and it was definitely not a family photo. I also gave him the time I found it, which was a minute before I took the photo. He then said if there's any more questions or things he'll reach out to me, but he says it's unlikely since I just found the photo and don't know much about it. He then said, thanks, that's all he needed, and then took the box and photo, and then began to walk to the thrift store worker to ask questions, but I left. That's all I have so far. And if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'll get any updates from them, since I'm sure it's hard to go off of a film photo, and since I just stumbled upon it from chance and have no other information other than what I said. It's common for online discoveries like this to be met with skepticism, and the initial reaction is often to suspect the poster of faking it for online attention. Yet in this particular situation, The overwhelming belief was that the OP was genuine, primarily because the picture appeared disturbingly real. This led to numerous requests for more details about where and how the film was found, which the OP addressed by sharing pictures of the film's box. Following this, one person asked for more specific information. Was that the only image in the carousel? Hopefully it's from an old closed case somehow. Yes, it's the only image, but it wasn't in the carousel. It was in the middle of the carousel. Using their Apple Watch as a bright backlight, Superheatran posted a clear photograph of the film an hour later. This clearer image reinforced the general consensus that the picture on the film was authentic. A user stated, "This doesn't seem fake. If it is, it's really well done." In addition, they mentioned, "I feel like if it was fake, it would be either more or less gruesome, but there's something about the positioning of the body, the fact that it isn't a more attractive body type, read thin and beautiful for better optics, and the natural pattern of blood on the wall that indicates the victim FUD and didn't die immediately. Visible hand finger marks on the wall, in addition to smudges and splatter, just doesn't seem like it was some type of dark art project." Obviously, I can't say for sure, but I watch a ton of true crime and fiction, crime shows. The difference in brutality and realism of the crime scene photos are easy to distinguish. Assuming the film strip was real, its source was unknown. The carousel indicated a mid-1980s origin. In a separate comment, the OP also described the film as sticky, stating, "I didn't smell it, but yes, it was sticky, as in it would stay on my index finger after pressing on it." The film's stickiness indicated its age, a common issue for film, stored improperly for over a decade, likely placing its origin in the 1980s or early 1990s. The disturbing content had various potential explanations, including the grim possibility of it being a serial killer's trophy photo. This raised the perplexing question of how it ended up at a thrift store. One user offered a personal anecdote as a potential explanation, stating, "My mother lives in a seniors community in California, and there's a Savers just around the corner. When the old people die a lot of the time, their kids pick up what they cherish and dump all the rest of their parents' stuff. At the Savers could be the person who donated. This didn't know what was on it." In contrast, a more logical theory I came across suggested that the film likely originated from a criminology instructor who wrote, "I think a likely possibility is that the carousel belonged to someone who taught classes relating to crime scenes." The photo was accidentally left in the box because it had come away from its slide frame, only suggesting this because I once found something similar from a house clearance and I knew the person taught some criminology classes. A further possibility is that the carousel was originally owned by law enforcement, and the film was evidence from a closed case mistakenly donated to a thrift store. Regardless, the truth is likely to remain unknown for the foreseeable future. The OP hasn't provided any updates in months. While police involvement might eventually shed light on the situation, the film strip depicting a seemingly horrific crime remains an unsolved mystery. In a Reddit post from January 16th, 2021, Pagan Princess 22 recounted a strangely terrifying hospital experience. "A woman posing as a nurse stole my blood from an Indiana, USA emergency room in 1996 or 1997 when I was 5 or 6 years old. Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if this is the correct place, so please feel free to direct me to a better subreddit if there is one. I flared it as a cold case because it happened 23 years ago, but there were no charges filed to my recollection and I don't remember a case being made from it. This is a strange story, and I was 5, maybe 6 when it happened, so I don't have a lot of the details. I had recently told my younger sister about this story, and she encouraged me to look into the incident more and see if I could find out either who this person was, or if there was a larger pattern of behavior during the time frame. I'm interested in any information you all have to offer, to shed on the matter, as I truly just want to satisfy some curiosity. I'm 99% sure any statute of limitations is up, and I'm not interested in reporting something so weird, and from so long ago to the police, for them to tell me there's nothing that can be done. Now on to the story. When I was around 5 or 6, I got a pretty bad nosebleed that wouldn't stop. I eventually started throwing up big clots of blood as well, and my mother took me to the emergency room. This would be around the Sunman or Indianapolis area in Indiana, USA, but I do not know the name of the hospital at the time. Beds were separated only by curtains on ceiling racks, and not individual walled rooms. My mother had left my room to speak to a doctor, I think. I know she left, and a woman I did not know came in shortly after she left. She was white, had medium brown hair, and looked to be in her 20s or 30s. She was wearing a blue scrub shirt with puppy dogs on it and unmatched pants. I want to say she was not wearing scrub pants, but rather jeans or maybe sweatpants. I know they did not match her shirt, which stood out to me. The other nurses and doctors I saw only wore solid-colored scrubs, and were all matched. She said she needed to take some blood and pulled the tools to do so from her scrub pockets, not a phlebotomy cart. She stuck me and started drawing blood, somewhere around 5 to 7 vials of it, but potentially more. On the last vial, we heard my mom and a doctor coming back towards the room. She hurriedly ripped the tube from my arm before the last vial was full. It spilled some blood. She did not give me a Band-Aid or gauze. She just left me bleeding and shoved everything back into her pocket, then ran from the room. She ran to the left and my mom and doctor entered from the right. The doctor said a nurse would be with me soon to draw some blood and run some tests. I told him a lady had already taken my blood and he asked what she looked like and where she went. I described her. He turned wide-eyed to my mother and said, "She doesn't work here," and ran out of the room to the left. I heard some loud voices. There was a lot of commotion, but I don't remember anything past that point other than just feeling dizzy and now scared that some strange woman had my blood. I've never been able to find out what happened, who this woman was, and if she was ever caught or if this type of thing was happening across the country at the time. I have no idea. Let me know if there's any other information I could provide to make it easier to find out what happened to my blood. Edited a typo, and to add, my mother is not a great source of information when it comes to my early life or her life or anything really, as she has some of her own issues. Several years ago when I was a teenager, I confirmed the details I remembered, then refused to talk further about it and asked me not to bring it up again. She claims she does not remember the name of the hospital, the name of the doctor, or other details I was asking for at the time. What makes this story so frightening is its basis in reality. Considering the existing fear many children have of doctors and needles, the thought of someone impersonating a nurse to steal blood is particularly horrifying. Are there any chances that you are adopted? A user speculated that the strange woman might have been OP's biological mother, attempting to obtain blood for DNA testing. This theory, though perhaps far-fetched, could explain OP's mother's subsequent silence on the matter. However, OP swiftly rejected this notion in a comment that read, "I don't believe so, no. I've seen my original birth certificate, and it lists my known parents as my birth parents. I also look very similar to my mom and sister." User OSnapdragon22 presented what seemed to be the most likely theory, suggesting that OP could be misremembering elements of the experience in a way that makes it appear more frightening than it actually was. They stated, "Nurse here. Phlebotomists, how this sometimes wear different scrubs. It seems highly unlikely that someone stole your blood and put them in tubes. Those tubes are full of various additives for different diagnostic testing. If I were to steal your blood, I would use a bag instead. Not like I would steal blood or anything, just making a point. It seems highly weird that a civilian would have the necessary tools, tubes, to complete this lab draw. Many blood draws are done with equipment carried in scrub pockets, so not having a cart is not atypical. Supplies in hospitals, especially needles, are required to be locked per Joint Commission/DMV for obvious reasons. Drug users, children also, blood draw carts are actually an infection risk in some cases. Lastly, hospitals are extremely stranger unfriendly. Every nurse and tech knows who's supposed to be there and who's not. Even when you're a co-worker that has been floated from another floor to assist you, are treated as an outsider, and many co-workers still stop and ask you what you need, what you're doing there. This was most likely a flashbulb memory instance as you are 5 and have a childlike recollection of events, and said yourself that your family parent is a poor historian. I hope this provides some reassurance for you. I'm not trying to diminish what you're saying. Just mentioning that from my experience it seems highly implausible. P.S. A doctor saying someone doesn't work, that is also ridiculous, as doctors do. Rotations don't stay on one floor permanently, and typically do not know all staff members working in a given unit at a time. Pagan Princess 22 remains active on Reddit, yet no new information about her terrifying hospital encounter has been shared. Perhaps one day her mother will provide the missing pieces and finally shed light on what happened to OP.